Hey everyone. In this lecture, we're going to look at 4 of the terms that we're going to talk about this week for argument: claims, subclaims, counterclaims, and rebuttals. So what is a claim? Well, in the academic world, a claim goes beyond that of just an opinion. An opinion is just something that you have. You don't even have to support it if you don't want to. But a claim is something that has to be supported. So here's an opinion. I can say that Twinkies are the most delicious snack cake. All right, I'm giving an opinion. But a claim in the academic world goes farther than that and says a because, right? It gives you a because. Twinkies taste better than other snack cakes because. All right. So in my because, I've come up with some subclaims here. I prefer their texture, their creamy filling, and their golden appearance. So I have a reason that backs up my claim. I'm not just saying Twinkies are better, I'm saying why. And it's that why that's important. So claims, as I said, are supported by external means. We can do research on it to support it. What makes them delicious? Why do people prefer them? What is our audience going to see as useful information? And we'll get to that in a later lecture. But they do need some information. Why should they buy into your claim? For this particular example, we're looking at something called an evaluative claim. There are lots of different kinds of claims. These we'll deal with in a later week. But since this particular example happens to be evaluative, I thought I'd explain what that means. An evaluative claim evaluates something, just as its name implies. This car is better than that car. I'm looking at 2 cell plans. Cell plan A is better than cell plan B. Maybe I'm looking in a political science class at the costs of World War I compared to World War II. I'm doing a comparison, and to make that comparison, it has to be based on some evaluative criteria. So the subclaims for anything comparison are going to be evaluative. How am I going to make that comparison? How do I know that this car is better than that car? I might look at cost, features, and style, right? What about cell plans? Well, if I'm trying to decide between 2 cell plans, again, I need some criteria. Am I most concerned with minutes, with rollover restrictions, right? It depends on what I need from that cell plan. What about the cost of war? Maybe you discuss certain things in class that you're going to have to bring into your comparison. Are we talking about human costs? Are we talking about financial costs? So by what criteria are you comparing these 2 groups? All right? And each one of those subclaims would be examined in its own section. We have claims. We support that claim with subclaims, but we also have to take into account other people's points of view. To not do so would leave us open to charges of A, being ignorant of those other points of view. We didn't do our research, so we don't know that there are any points of view. Or B, being overly biased. We're only going to present our own views and not consider anybody else's. Or we can be accused of maybe trying to do something unethical. We're trying to hide other points of views from our audience. So it's important, and we'll continue to talk about this later, to evaluate other points of view. And we call these counterclaims because they're countering our claims. All right? Counterclaims can either address our entire claim or it can address our subclaim. So we'll find articles maybe where the whole article is in support of our claim. That's great, that's support. Or I could find whole articles that are totally against my claim, or maybe I can find part of an article that's against part of one of my subclaims. So it's not all or nothing. You might find an article that mostly disagrees with you, but then there are some places where they do agree. So it's kind of a mixed bag of what you're going to find. But counterclaims are the claims of people that are different from your own. And we have 2 types of counterclaims. An opposing counterclaim, which asserts that something's directly opposed to your ideas. Either it's totally opposed to your claim or opposed to one of your subclaims. An alternate counterclaim is one in which the counterclaim agrees with you in some ways but disagrees with you in others. And we'll look at more examples of these later. So in our Twinkie analysis here, an opposing counterclaim would be something directly opposing my own. So I say Twinkies taste better, you say Little Debbie Swiss rolls taste better. That's totally opposite from what I'm talking about. Examples of alternate counterclaims would be something that agrees with me but for different reasons. So I think Twinkies are great because of their texture, their filling, and their appearance. A counterclaim that's considered an alternate counterclaim agrees with me about the idea that Twinkies do taste better, but for different reasons. Maybe the sugar level, the addition of salt, and acid level. And again, we have more lecture material on this. Finally, what is a rebuttal? When we present these opposing and alternate views, we also have to say what's flawed about them. So we try to discredit, minimize, or invalidate the counterclaim. Maybe they're incorrect. Maybe they don't work for this particular argument. Maybe they're only partially correct. So we want to, after we explain what the counterclaim is, we want to explain why it has flaws, why we can ignore that information or say that it doesn't work for us. An example of our rebuttal may be that it's true, many people do enjoy the sugar level of Twinkies, right? It said sugar, salt, and acidity were the reasons, right? That was the counter argument. So it's true that many people enjoy the sugar levels. However, most people are not interested in salt or acid. So we disagreed about the salt and acid, even though we agreed about the sugar. The rebuttal discredits two of the counterclaim's reasons.